Hi, I'm Carleen and welcome to my channel, The Makeover Mama. Here I enjoy sharing ways that you too can create a beautiful life on a budget. I create videos around family life, family food, homemaking, DIY, travel, beauty and more. If that's your vibe, please hit subscribe. In the kitchen we're going to make some roasted tomato soup, a mango chicken curry, and a yummy dinner with mashed potato, a zucchini casserole and French onion mini meatballs, all on a budget of course. And on day 2 we're going to be making pumpkin pie waffles and a pumpkin crumble cake. Good morning and welcome back to my kitchen. I've got a whole list of food I want to make, all sort of wintry, autumn inspired flavors, because in a couple of weeks it's going to be spring. Who are we kidding? It's actually 29 degrees already and it's sunny outside and it's probably gonna be sweaty weather later on today. He's almost asleep, thank God. So let's get started. I don't know why I'm whispering, he's gonna be hearing all the banging and clanging in the kitchen anyway. We'll see how long he sleeps for. Let's go. My plan of attack at this stage is to prep the vegetables for the roasted tomato and pepper capsicum soup, and then move on to the roast pumpkin as well while I've got the oven going, and then start on the mango chicken curry. So at this point I'm just prepping the tomatoes, but just removing their little core. And I'm going to do some whole capsicum, and I've got half of one there that was left over from another recipe. I'm going to do quartered up red onion. Use whatever onion you've got, white is fine. And we're going to do the garlic whole because I want to be able to squeeze them out once they're nice and caramelized. I haven't been able to do that successfully before. I think last time I just charred them and there was no coming back from that. So I'm just drizzling them with some olive oil. I'm going to go ahead and I'll season them. And because it is Italian sort of flavors, I just thought I'll just use my Italian mix and sprinkle that all over. And I second guessed myself with the capsicum. I'm like, no, I'll lay him down. I thought if I sit him up, I wonder if that would work, whether it would like steam itself from the inside, but I chickened out. This is the quickest way to prepare a pumpkin for a recipe where it needs a puree. So what you need is a half pumpkin. You need to start by washing it, de-seeding it, and the first thing you're going to do is just plonk it face down on your tray. That's being sprayed with oil. That's it. It's as easy as that. Don't skin it. Don't chop it up in little pieces. Don't boil it up. Stick it down like that, and all of the steam and everything will be captured, and it's going to soften the skin, soften the flesh, caramelize it. It's going to be really sweet and it's going to cook through, and then you're just going to scoop it out. I'm just going to go ahead and prep the quarter that I got because that was the last half that they had on the shelf. So I'm just going to use what's there and prep it exactly the same. And you'll notice when I pull it out, the one that's in the half has like a deeper color and it's more caramelized, whereas the quarter, like you can see the surface of the skin dries out a little bit, but it works just fine. Next up, we're going to prep the veggies for the mango curried chicken. I wanted this to be a really colourful dish, so I've got some red onion, some green capsicum, because I had some left over from another recipe. You could add in cubed up small pieces of sweet potato if you wanted to, or carrot. This recipe asked for chicken breast fillet, but I'm using thigh cutlet skin on bone in from Woolies because they were $7.50 a kilo as opposed to $14 a kilo. This is everything that you'll need, including the main star ingredient that I've just tossed to the side there, which is just curry powder. While I'm browning the chicken and getting a nice crispy skin, I'm getting the soup base ready, which is just 3 cups of chicken stock. If you had bone broth, that would be even better and tastier. I just didn't have any on hand. So I've seasoned the chicken, I've tossed it over with tongs, seasoned it again, and now I'm just popping in the onion, and we're going to saute that, and we're going to get those chicken juices from the bottom of the pan to help soften those onions before we put in our curry powder. The recipe called for, I doubled it, so it called for 4 tablespoons, but I chickened out and did 3. I feel like I can't handle spicy food as much as I could have before I had kids. It's like my taste buds have gone so mellow. It's like literally the same as like a 5-year-old. Like I can't hack it. So I went on the soft side of 3 tablespoons. And also I thought if the kids, wanted to eat it too, of course, I can also soften theirs up flavor-wise with extra coconut milk or cream or yogurt or something. Well, that was the plan anyway. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix that all together until it's really nice and fragrant, and then I just added in some vegetables. I bulked it up a little bit more with some frozen beans as well, because that's what I had on hand. Like I said before, you can add some other veggies, potatoes if you wanted to, just to help stretch that meal and make your meat go further. The next thing we're going to pop in is our mango slices. So the syrup in the mangoes is what helps make the sauce. So don't drain it. Don't chop them up. They come in thick slices like that. You kind of smush it up a little bit. Well, I do with my, spoon or whatever you're using. And that helps just soften it up, and it'll break down and become a part of the sauce. So you don't get big chunks of mango by the end. And I don't like to waste food, so I'm just, running the can, rinsing it with water, adding that back into the dish. We're going to add a can of coconut milk, shaking it really well too, so you don't get it all separated. How beautiful and colourful does that look? That was what I was envisioning when I wanted to make this recipe, to embrace, the nice cool nights that we're having here, even though it's hot during the day. But you'll see it doesn't quite go to plan, but just, take a mental image. It did look pretty at one stage. So I'm just checking on our roasted vegetables for our soup, and I'm staring at that capsicum so hard thinking, is it enough? Has it been cooked enough? I'll just poke it one more time. Yeah, it's not ready. This one is, not the other one. I think I put that one in for a little bit longer. Since the tomatoes are done, I'm going to go ahead and put that into the stock that's simmering away. I'm just going to let those flavors develop while I need to roast that other capsicum a bit longer. So I'm going to stick this one that's ready in my container with the lid to let it steam off, and so that the skin's easy to remove. I have seen it done before where you can put it into like a plastic sandwich bag, seal it off, and that will do the exact same thing. But I figured I'll just save the environment and save some plastic and use a dish that I'm gonna get dirty later on anyway. So you do whichever way suits you, but I just thought I would go the eco-friendly route in this case. I'm just trying to extract the garlic from its little crusty shell. One of them worked really well, but the others were really quite small and skinny because that's all that I had left. So if you're going to roast them whole, use the nice big fat cloves if you have any. Mine didn't, so yeah, I would suggest that to make it easier for you. And I'm just going to go ahead and remove the skin as much as I can anyway off of my roasted bell pepper, capsicum. Is there an easier way to do this? Should I have steamed it a little bit longer in there? Should I have used a plastic bag? Would that have worked better? I don't know. But I did find like this was a bit sort of fiddly towards the end. It was sort of not peeling off in, great big chunks. So let me know if there's a trick to doing this better. Doing the same thing for the whole one definitely took me like a little bit longer.
So I grab out my instructions to make baguettes, and the book had gotten wet. And there's some crucial information missing here, so I'm gonna have to do this another day. I have to go and get the kids from school. It's not my day to make baguettes today, so I'm gonna have to pass over the bread, and we'll make that another day. And I'm just gonna get some rice on for the curry instead, and try and if I get a chance whip up this soup as well before I leave.
So I finished roasting the large bell pepper, and I've stuck it in the same glass dish to try and steam it to help soften the skin to make that easier to remove. And you may have noticed that it's been a bit of a hard day with the teething baby, so things don't quite go to plan. So this has been filmed sort of throughout that day, and I've just had to sort of chop it into chronological order for you, so it's easier for you to make sense of. But just know that with young children around, it is easier for me to break down tasks into little bite-sized pieces at times, especially when I'm having a tough day like today. Now that all of my ingredients are in, I'm just going to use my immersion blender to whip this together. I was concerned slightly that it would just strip the bottom of my pot with that metal part of the blender that protects the blades, but it was fine. I had like 3 minutes spare to do this before I had to go and pick up the boys from school, so I just needed to get it done. It's kind of my attitude for today. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my immersion blender to blend this together. After tasting it, once everything was combined, I felt like the tomatoes had a bit too much acidity, like it was a bit too sour. So I just added a sprinkle of some brown sugar to bring out the sweetness of the roasted capsicum and the tomatoes. And I felt like it needed some more flavor as well. So I'm just doing a sprinkling of the Italian herb mix, which is just a blend of basil, oregano. I think it's got dried tomato peppers and stuff in there as well. And I'm just going to pop that back on the stovetop to simmer while I get the kids from school. Alright, so it's time to test our pumpkins. So you want to make sure that the skin is nice and soft. If you were to press that, it means that the flesh inside is nice and tender. And if you have a look at our half pumpkin, you can see that the color has darkened. It's really nice and sort of moist inside, and it's really soft and supple. So that means that it's ready to go and ready to be pureed. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that in my immersion blender container and then get that ready to blend up. As you can see with the quarter, even the surface of it, it looks a little bit dry, and it's sort of a little bit tougher, the skin, and it's a little bit sort of stringy as well. So I've found this in the past when I've used bigger pieces or chunkier pieces, they sort of end up like this, and they don't end up as soft and caramelized as the half does. I'm just going to go ahead and blend that up, and 3/4 of an average sized canned pumpkin yielded about 900 mils of pumpkin puree for future reference. Alright, next up we're going to prep our French onion mini meatballs, and to make our meat stretch and go further, we're going to use a whole can of lentils. These are quite small and fine. They're a 5-star health rating, so it's a safe additive to dinner. It's going to add some protein, some fiber, and it's good for you. If you want to see another video on how to save money on your groceries, I will link that below on other ways you can stretch meat in meals. So all you need is 2 eggs and a packet of French onion soup. This is like 55 cents, and there are so many versatile ways that you can use this, and this is a really simple way to pull a meal together using like minimal ingredients. So we're going to use half a packet in the minced mixture, and then the other half is going to make up the gravy sauce. So I'm just going to go ahead and massage that all together, and you can season it with a little bit of pepper if you like. I wouldn't add salt because I feel like the French onion soup is salty enough as it is. So I'm just going to go ahead and try and get the air bubbles out of that and fill up my baking tray. We're going to go ahead and pop these in the oven for maybe 10-15 minutes on 180 to help brown them up and crisp them up, because if I was to just add the sauce in now, it would all just fall apart and be like mushy mince, which is not what I want. I want them to hold their shape. So while that's browning off, I'm going to add 1.5 cups of water to the remaining half a pack of soup, and then just let that sit aside, ready to throw it on when the mince is done. So in the meantime, I'm going to prep up some rustic mashed potato, textured mashed potato, and I did quite a few up because I don't want to cook every night, right? I'm tired. So I'm going to cook up a big batch so that we can reheat later on, and I'm just going to add that to some boiling hot water, which has been salted as well. Welcome back. Where have you been? Just kidding, I was here. I just forgot to press record. Taking a step back, I cut up 4 medium-sized zucchinis into about 1/2 inch pieces, and they're just soaking in about a teaspoon of, I think it was 2 teaspoons of salt, and I was instructed to put paper towel on the bottom to let it absorb. You also missed me putting the gravy on and putting it in the oven to brown up, like once it was browned up. So sorry. Now that you're all caught up, I'm gonna go stick that back in the oven so that can finish cooking now that you can see what you missed, and we'll get on with it. Got distracted by a crying baby, sorry. Okay, so for this recipe for the zucchini, we need 1/4 cup of heavy cream, 1 egg. I've got half a cup of onion there put to the side. We need about, it said 2 cloves of garlic minced. I'm just going to use some garlic powder. I think it did 1 teaspoon. I've got 1/4 teaspoon of salt, 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, 1.5 teaspoons of dried oregano, 1 teaspoon of thyme, and I didn't have any basil. I ran out of that, and I wasn't going to bother with feta cheese because I didn't have any, so all the breadcrumbs actually, so I just used what I had. And I'm just going to whisk that together, and I'm just going to add in just regular shredded cheese because I didn't have feta, and I just grated that until my arm got tired, about half a cup. And I'm just going to go ahead and grate some more and leave it to the side so I can put that on top before I put it in the oven. So I'm just checking on those meatballs there, since they're thickening up and it's getting sort of crispy and brown. I want to flip them over because I don't want half of it to be like soggy and gross and then the other half crispy. So that's the undone side, so they're going back in. And you can't see the moisture dripping off there, but it is, that salt is helping the moisture be released from the zucchini. And the instructions said to put paper towel down the bottom of your colander. You don't do that, because I did, and then I was fishing out bits of paper towel when I was mixing it in here. I was like, oh wait, what's that? Oh, paper towel. Yep, definitely is. So yeah, don't recommend. I thought at one stage it was some grated cheese in the mixture, then I was like, oh no, is that more paper towel? I'm just going to add some texture in. It's made from trees, right? We'll be fine. So it said to mix it in and then put it in your dish, but I wanted to make it look pretty, like a little spiral, like ratatouille inspired. So I should have just laid them down and then just put the sauce over the top. Like, what's the worst that could have happened? Anyway, I did what I was told in this case, and then I regretted it. Put my cheese on top, and we're going to stick that in the oven for about 20 minutes on 180. So the meatballs are done on all sides. I'm just stirring that through, just double checking that everything is cooked through. And I'm just going to keep that warm with some alfoil. I'm going to pop that to the side, just so then when everything else comes together, the kids can eat straight away, because they're going to be starving by this time. They've had a big day today. So I'm just going to go ahead and just add a little bit of salt. I think I forgot the pepper at this stage. Some sour cream to my potatoes. We're just going to go ahead and mash those. I added a dash of milk, and then I think, yeah, I remember the pepper. I remember the pepper now. We're just going to mix that through together. And I'm just going to add a couple of pats of butter on top, just to melt over it, to add a little bit of flavour. And just to make it look a little bit pretty, I'm going to use some chives from the kids' garden out the back. If you're wondering, I'm saving on all those veggie scraps. It's to feed the worms, and then I get the worm tea, then I put that on my little veggie patch in my little flower garden I'm trying to start. So thanks, worms. So here's all of our hard work. Just because you're frugal or you're broke doesn't mean your food has to look basic. So I garnished our soup that was simmering away in the background with some olive oil, some cream, and a couple of basil leaves from the backyard, and it looks gorgeous. And it wasn't very expensive to make. It was very easy, and it simmered for like hours because I forgot about it when the baby was being a handful. He's kicking me here while I'm holding him. He dug his finger in the corner there as swiped it as I was trying to feel him here, and it's not as colourful as I wanted it to be, as you saw earlier, because it was simmering for like 4 hours because I had my hands full with the teething baby. But it still tasted great. The flavour was there. It just doesn't look as pretty as I wanted it to. We've got our mashed potato. Is there a way that you can make it look really nice? Oh no, let me know. Let me know below if you have a beautiful way to serve mashed potato, because I need to up the ante. And my zucchini casserole's all done. It was very flavoursome, so definitely make that one. And here is our meatballs made in gravy, and that's a wrap for the day. As you can see, it's a new day, and I had high hopes that it would be better than yesterday, but it didn't go to plan. So ignore the bread maker leaflet there. I'll explain why in the bloopers, and ignore the oatmeal because that didn't go to plan either. I was going to make oatmeal flour, but the baby just fell asleep, and I wasn't going to risk waking him up blending up oatmeal to make oatmeal flour. So we're just going to go ahead with 3 cups of just plain flour. And I'll link this recipe below as well. I couldn't find my sieve, so Lord knows where that is. We're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of baking soda. It did call for 2 tablespoons of pumpkin pie spice. We don't normally have that on the shelf here in Australia, so I found a recipe and it needed like allspice and ground clove, which I didn't have. So I'm just going to go in, so instead of 2 tablespoons of pumpkin pie spice, I did 1 tablespoon of cinnamon and like half a teaspoon of nutmeg. I've got 1 teaspoon of salt, and then I'm just mixing all of that together with my whisk, hoping to break up any lumps. And then we're going to go ahead and add our 2 cups of pumpkin puree that we made yesterday. I had it sitting out on the bench so it wasn't really cold, so that it wouldn't like affect the batter. So we're going to go ahead and mix up our wet ingredients in a different bowl. I'm just going to measure that out because I had almost a litre of pumpkin puree after roasting it yesterday. So I only need 2 cups for this recipe, and then I'm going to save the other part of it for a pumpkin coffee crumb cake. So I'm just going to add that to my bowl, and we're going to add in 4 eggs as well. The recipe calls for 6 tablespoons of butter melted, so I'm just going to guesstimate that and chuck that in the microwave for 30 seconds and see if I can just get that to melt nicely. And then it also asks for 1/4 cup of brown sugar melted. So you'll see that I'll mix that together, hoping that they will just melt together, and then that can be added into the wet part of the batter. To that, we're going to go ahead and add 2 cups of milk and whisk that together. I'm just checking on the side there that that brown sugar is definitely melting in the hot butter. I thought that this homemade vanilla essence would taste nice in the recipe. It didn't call for vanilla essence, but I'm just going to add mine in because it's the base of it is spiced rum, and I thought that those flavors would go really nicely together, and they did. It smells delicious. So I'm just going to go ahead and mix that in as well. Finally adding in our melted butter and melted brown sugar, which is like a syrupy sort of consistency. So we're just going to go whisk that together so that it is combined really well before we need to add it to our dry ingredients, considering that there is quite a bit there. So I'm just going to go ahead and make a well in the center and just mix those 2 together. I sort of stopped halfway to start mixing it as I went to avoid any lumps in the batter, because you're normally meant to mix it until it's sort of just combined, so I didn't want to get too far in and then find some big lumps in there. Nobody wants that in the middle of their waffle. It feels so long since I made waffles, but I remembered that I used to always use this little 1/4 cup measurement to scoop out the waffle batter, so then each one would be the same sort of size and I wouldn't have to like guesstimate every time I wanted to refill the waffle iron up that it was going to overflow or not be enough, because that's just a recipe for mess. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I used to put paper towel underneath it, so then if anything would drip out, it would just catch it, and it just makes it easy for cleanup. I can just sort of scrape everything off as I go and then just toss that in the bin. I've got my little wire rack ready to go for them to cool off on, and I did check this earlier, afraid that I didn't put enough in. I didn't trust my gut instinct, so this one was a bit tampered with, so that's why it's a bit broken up there, because I opened it earlier, and it is on the softer side. I like mine really crispy, but it's sort of soft, and I thought, okay, I'm just going to leave it as it is, because I normally like to reheat these in the toaster for the kids in the morning when they're getting ready for school. I just find it so much easier than microwaving it, because then, you know, they're going to be soggy that way. But it looked nice and golden enough. The color was good. but I just thought, you know, if I make it like super crispy now and then put it in the toaster, it's probably going to crack one of their little baby teeth. So we'll avoid that dentist bill. I just wanted to butt in here and just check in with you guys. I feel like my waffle iron, which was a whole like $15 like 8 years ago from Target or Target, I feel like it takes so long to cook through a waffle and they end up like soft, like you would have just seen then. So I don't know if it's the recipe or if it's my waffle maker, but I want to get another one because I feel like they take so long to heat up and then crisp through that by the time I make through a whole batch, it can take me quite a long time. So I'm thinking about getting like a four waffle iron, and there are so many to choose from, and I saw there was this fancy one that was like vertical where it like has this, it's like round, it's a round waffle maker, and you sort of like put it up vertically, tip it in, it has like a little spout, and then you put it flat, and then you can hear it sizzling there, sorry if you can hear me, and then it goes flat to cook it. So I've seen some of those on huge sales and discounts in the past, but I don't know, I feel like I'd rather just a normal one which has a bigger waffle as opposed to some fancy schmancy gadget with this convenience, but then you get like all of the corners cut off your waffle because it's round. I don't know, I'm pretty sure it was round. Let me check. But anyway, if you have a favorite waffle maker that you feel like is the bomb, it's crispy, it heats up really quickly, I want a new one. I need to upgrade my kitchen stuff, which you are well aware of if you've been here before. So I want to start with a waffle maker, I think. All right, let me know what you think. Type it in the comments below which one you think I should get. All right, thanks. So we're going to go ahead and prepare our pumpkin coffee crumb cake. At this point I realized that I have no baking paper and I had 6 rolls of cling wrap in the pantry, so that wasn't helpful. So I'm just using some of the butter from the streusel to grease up my cake tin. I will link this recipe below if you need it, and we're going to start with 2 cups of plain flour, and we're going to need 3/4 cup of white sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, half a teaspoon of salt. It does ask for 1 tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice. I just did, so what did I do? 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. I just winged it really, to be honest. And I'm just going to mix that together. And we're going to go ahead and add 1 cup of pumpkin puree. So 1 cup's normally 250 ml. I had 300 ml of pumpkin puree, and I just thought, nah, what's the worst that could happen, right? And then I pause this to flip back to check on the waffles because I want to keep them turning over and keep those going in the background. So I'm not going to stop every time and show you that I'm doing that. I'm just going to, do that behind the scenes kind of, just so we can get on with this video. So I'm just going to pop the next 2 in, and then we'll get back to our pumpkin cake. Here's what they look like. So the first one was a bit tampered with. The next one I left it in for a little bit longer. By the time I got to the third one, I sort of got the hang of how long I needed to leave it in for. So you can see that looks a bit sort of firmer and crispier compared to the first one. Oops, sorry about that. I did it again. I had you all set up and I didn't press record. Okay, what did you miss? Let's catch you up. 1/4 cup of vegetable oil and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. And now we've got 1/2 cup of milk. Okay, you're all caught up. Sorry. It's not my day. And then I realized that I'm about to make the strudel and I need melted butter, 1/4 cup of melted butter. So I'm just going to go ahead and I just eyeballed that chunk of butter, and I'm just going to stick that in the microwave for 30 seconds while I try and mix this batter together. And then I'm going to get started with the streusel now. So I've got 1/4 cup of that melted butter, 1/4 cup of plain flour, and I didn't trust my gut, so I measured it out, and what do you know, it was 1/4 cup. So, don't know why I didn't just trust my chef instincts. But here we are. So I'm just going to mix that together, adding in some brown sugar. The recipe did call for 1 cup. I did a little bit less at 3/4 cup, and then I mixed it together and I felt like it was a bit too soft, so I added a bit of more plain flour, just what I had left, until it looked nice and crumbly like this. And then that's all ready to go. So we're just gonna add this to our cake tin, smooth out the top, and then add our streusel on top of our cake. Some people like to press it in. I like it to be sort of sticking out a little bit, so it adds a little bit of height to the cake and adds like a nice crumbly texture, because if you sort of push it in, I feel like, I don't know, it kind of gets lost a little bit. So I like mine to just sort of sit on top. You can pinch it as you go to get larger sort of crumbly streusely bits. Back in the day I would have like rubbed butter together with my fingertips with the sugar and the flour to make it like this, but I'm so loving this quick recipe. Alright, after about 20 minutes at 180, it's all done. I did second guess myself with a skewer because I had that extra pumpkin puree in there. I thought, oh, there's a little bit sort of sticking to the tip of it. Will it be fine? We're just gonna make do. What's the worst that could happen? And it turned out really beautiful. The colour was really vibrant. The kids loved it. It was nice and sweet, great with the cup of coffee in the afternoon. Next up, I finished with all of the waffles. So I got a nice big batch, and I'm going to serve it with some vanilla yogurt and some maple syrup. By the end, I got, I think it was 18 waffles. It was just shy of 20 waffles, and I don't plan on making breakfast any other day this week. Okay, we're finally done in the kitchen. It has been a couple of days with a fussy teething baby, but thank you for sticking it out with me. Now we've made lots of yummy food to last me for the next like 4 nighs. I don't plan on cooking for a little while now. If you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so if you enjoyed the time that we spent together today. Look out shortly for some Father's Day content, and soon it'll be spring, so I'll be changing things up in the kitchen for spring and around my home. We'll have school holidays coming up, so we'll be doing lots of fun things there too. Hit that subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up if you like this type of content. Thank you for stopping by. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.
What you doing under there? What you doing under there? No, it's not a good morning, is it? No, I've had no sleep. Well, neither of us has, but you're just eating my hair. Okay, let's try again. I want to make some nice bread rolls to go with them. I'm thinking about using my bread maker because it's got a cool baguette like insert in there. Okay, so I stuffed up. See how these are still empty? Yet it says 0 and it's a keep warm. Yeah, I missed the little beeping buzzer thing and it just baked it as it was. I was outside trying to cheer up a crying baby, and ow, that's still really hot. And I missed it. So yeah, now what? I think I did. I think I did it again. Oh, now we gotta record the whole thing over again. Oh no. Better? Better? It's not better. It's not better. Okay, we'll try again. Cut 3. Who's a good person? I love you.